Hey guys, it's Michelle Stock. I have received a couple questions with students liking some extra help on last week's IXL assignment of Y12, converting linear equations from standard form and slope-intercept form. So I first want to show you a couple places to find help on OMHS, and then I'm going to go through and do 2 or 3 examples on IXL with you, okay? So the first place is I'm going to go in and view the assignment itself. So I'm going to click on content. And then this was unit 3. So I'm going to, actually no, this was unit 4, my bad. So I'm going to open up unit 4 and go to IXL assignments. So right here, we have the IXL assignment Y12. So a couple things that you should look for is if you're having difficulty, first, make sure that you have completed OMHS lesson 404 because this is similar to the assignment. 404 goes over some extra stuff, but it does go over the conversion from standard to slope. Also, right here is a Khan Academy video that goes over several examples as well. And then the nice thing about this Khan Academy video is it also graphs them. So it kind of provides that extra reinforcement if you're having difficulty on any of the Unit 3 ones on graphing lines. All right, but let's go ahead and now look at the IXL assignment and do a couple questions together. So remember, you can either click on this link to get to IXL, you can type in this little shortcut, or as always, it's on your starred recommendations from your teacher page. So there's 3 different ways you can find it, whatever works best for you. I already have it pulled up, so let's come on over here. As you can see, we're on IXL assignment Y12, convert a linear equation in standard form to slope-intercept form. So let's work on solving this problem together. I am going to rewrite it, so that way I have enough room to work. Now, the reason we want to conform and convert this to slope-intercept form is that's the preferred way to graph an equation, because in order to graph an equation, you need 2 points. And when you have it in slope-intercept form, you have a point, so your y-intercept, and then your slope is a movement that allows you to obtain a second point. So that way you can graph a line. Remember, slope-intercept form is y equals mx plus b. So we need our equation to be in that format. And my equation is not in that format because I don't have y equals everything else. So it is not in slope-intercept form. So we need to make our equation match this, which means we need to move some things around. So this kind of goes back to our solving equations unit in unit 2, where we talked about how to move something from one side of the line to the other side is by doing that inverse operation. So if I look at what I want it to be, my goal is for it to be y equals mx plus b, which means I want my x to be on the right. See how it's on the right side of the equal sign? Well, right now, my x is on the left. So that's what I always start with, is moving my x term over and getting it on the right, because that's where it needs to be. So we need to move both the 18 and the x. That is called an x term. That whole thing needs to be moved to the other side. Well, if I see there's nothing in front of that, which means it's a positive 18x. So what's the inverse? What's the opposite of a positive? A negative. So we are going to subtract that entire term to each side. So we're going to subtract 18x here. And then here we have our equal sign. We're going to subtract 18x over here, because whatever we do to one side of the equation, we have to do to the other. So 18x and 18x, those are like terms because they both have an x. So therefore I can subtract them. And 18 minus 18 is 0. So our x term disappears, which means on this side we are left with a negative 17y. Now, when I come over to the right, I have negative 17 minus 18x. Can I subtract these? I hope you said no, because I can't. They are not like terms. My 17 does not have the variable x with it. Therefore, they're not the same, so I cannot combine them. So I can't do the math, so I'm just going to write it out. I'm just going to write negative 18x, and then it was a minus 17, so minus 17. So you just have to write it because they're not like terms, so you can't combine them. But that's okay, don't be alarmed, because if we look at what we want it to be, notice that we have something, we have one term plus another term. We got an x term plus a constant term, so it's looking good. I'm not quite there yet, because even though my y is almost by itself, that negative 17 is in the way, because we just want it to be a plain old y. So how can I move that negative 17? Once again, do the inverse. So don't be fooled by this negative. It's not being subtracted. It's negative 17 times y. So what's the inverse of multiplication? Division. So we are going to divide everything by that negative 17. And we're not going to divide by the y because I don't want to move the y. I want my y to be right there. I just want to get rid of the 17 this time. So negative 17 divided by negative 17 is 1. So we're left with our y. Now negative 18 divided by negative 17. Well, I can't divide and get a whole number. And the only factor they have in common is 1, so I can't really simplify it. But what I can do is notice how they're both negative. I can simplify it that way. What is a negative divided by a negative? A positive. So our slope simplifies to be a positive 18 over 17x. And then here, negative 17 divided by negative 17. Well, 17 divided by 17 is 1. And once again, a negative divided by a negative is a positive. So we're left with a positive 1. And then that is my final answer. And if I take my y equals mx plus b equation and write it with it, we can see it matches up. Y equals, and then our m, our slope is 18 over 17, x plus our b. So in this case, our b, our y-intercept is 1. So there we go. Now, when you type this into IXL, you will want to make sure to be very careful, because if you forget to write your x, if you forget to put an equal sign, anything like that, it will count it wrong. So make sure that when you guys do this work on paper, that you double check before you hit submit that you typed it all in correctly and didn't make an error, because that would be the worst thing ever. All right, let's do one more. So let me clear this. So once again, we want to convert to slope-intercept form. And slope-intercept form is y equals mx plus b. That's not in slope-intercept form. That's not anywhere close. So I'm just going to rewrite it. So 14x minus 2y equals negative 1. All right, once again, I like to start with moving my x term over, because by moving the x term over, we can get it on the proper side, because currently it's on the left of the equal sign, and I want it to be on the right of the equal sign. So how do I move that entire term, the 14 and the x, over to the other side? Hopefully you're thinking subtraction, because that's the inverse. There's nothing in front of the 14, which means it's a positive. So the inverse of a positive is a negative. So we're going to subtract 14x from both sides. 14x and minus 14x, they both have x's, so they're like terms, so I can do the subtraction. which is 0. So 2y, negative 2y, don't forget about that, equals. Right over here, I have negative 1 and negative 14x. Can I subtract them? Nope, they're not like terms. That negative 1 does not have an x. Therefore, they're not the same, which means we just need to write it out. So negative 14x, and then it's a minus 1, so minus 1. All right, we're getting closer. We're getting warmer. Our x is now on the right, like it should be. But that negative 2 is in the way. I need my y to be by itself. What's the inverse? Division. Negative 2 times y. The inverse of multiplication is division, which means everything is going to be divided by negative 2. Negative 2 divided by negative 2 is a positive 1. Negative 14 divided by negative 2, positive 7. So this time our slope is not a fraction. That's okay. And then negative 1 divided by negative 2. I can't divide and get a whole number. I don't want to write it as decimals because if I look up here in my directions, write your answer using integers, proper fractions, and improper fractions in simplest form. So I don't want to convert to decimal. That's not in the directions. It'll be wrong if you do. So I just need to simplify. Well, the only thing I can simplify is that I have a double negative. A negative divided by a negative is a positive. But that's okay that our slope is a fraction. I mean, not our slope. That's okay that our y-intercept is a fraction because I don't actually have to graph this, so it doesn't matter. And my answer is done because it is in slope-intercept form. Y equals mx plus b. And once again, when you type that in, be very careful not to miss an x, not to miss a sign, so that way you can get full credit for the hard work you've done. Okay? All right. Hopefully these 2 examples helped you out as well as the Khan Academy video that you guys can watch. And if you need anything else, please remember I have a help session Thursday at 4 o'clock. You are more than welcome to join me then. Or if you don't want to wait between now and then, send me a screenshot of your IXL problem and I can do what I do, just what I did here. I can work it out for you and send it back so you have another example. All right. Bye guys. Keep up the good work and email is working, so let me know if you need something.